Впродовж місяця травня в приміщеннях Альбертської ради українського мистецтва в Едмонтоні відбулася оригінальна виставка «I am Ukrainian Canadian» Лариси Луців про її сприйняття 125-ліття поселення українців у Канаді. Виставка встановлена завдяки допомозі Шевченківської фундації.
Я хотіла говорити з українцями, що живуть в Канаді, і я хотіла чути їхню історію, як вони прийшли до Канади, чи вони прийшли 125 років тому, чи вони щойно прийшли до Канади, і що їхня історія є. Я починала з родиною, бо моя родина має історію, починала з ним, і тоді я починала Facebook page «I am Ukrainian Canadian», і then багато людей тоді до мене прислали email і хотіли бути. А я тут маю 25 тут, але я ще маю більше на моїй I am Ukrainian Canadian, що they didn't make the exhibit, але I'd like to keep that project going online. So я починала з родиною, це мій дідо, мама, тато, він прийшов до Канади з бабою 1950 від from Displaced Persons Camp in Germany. Вони мали весілля рік перед тим і прийшли до Канади, бо мали родину у Форт Saskatchewan. І so я з дідом говорила тільки 2 тижні перед тим, що він помер, це мені дуже важливо. І він тут має 90 років, і коли він помер, він мав 91 рік. А це баба ще є з нами, і вона трошки говорила про її, як їй було в Канаді, як вона так тяжко працювала. І коли вона перше прийшла до Канади, вона працювала в GWG jeans, sewing zippers, piecework, and казала, що for 12 jeans she'd get 27 cents, and she made $100 a week. So how many jeans she had to sew to make $100 a week? Це є Василь Еленяк, багато людей в Канаді будуть про нього знати, бо він був одних перших, що прийшов до Канади з України. Його great-granddaughter Терesa написала щось про нього тут. І це ще знімка пан Карш взяв, коли він дістав його Canadian citizenship тут в Канаді. Пані Таланчук actually is also from Eastern Ukraine, surviving Holodomor, and then мама була забита під час війни в Україні, і тоді батько був забитий також, і тоді вона, коли їй було 18 років, хтось до двері прийшов і казав, що вона йде до Німеччини, і що вона була готова на другий день, і що вона думала, що я з собою візьму, бо я нічого не маю, тільки одну торбу можу взяти з собою. Взяла собі ці знімки. Це мама, тато, і тоді мама знову, і подушку, що вона ще має на ліжко. І тоді я прийшла до Канади, і маю 2 дітей, і маю внучки, і маю добре життя в Канаді тепер. Professor Horniatkevich, professor of the University of Alberta. I actually did not know that he didn't come to Canada as a young child. He came as an adult to work at the University of Alberta. So he came from Newark. So he immigrated to the United States first and then immigrated to Canada with a position at the University of Alberta. Lyudmila Sheffel is from actually Eastern Ukraine. Everybody else came from Western Ukraine. And she's the only one I have from Eastern Ukraine. And she immigrated in 2006 to Canada to make a better life for her and her son. Це є скриня, що така жінка Керен, вона дістала від прабаби. Це була прабаби скриня, тут була суконка від весілля, знімки, і тоді її мама дістала цю скриню, коли вона буде мати весілля. Тоді Керен дістала, вона мала дістати нову скриню, але вони не купили її один. І тоді казала, чи ти хочеш баби? Вона каже, так, дай мені бабу, і тоді її доня буде мати цю скриню. So
my family immigrated to Canada in the late 1920s. And I'm very fortunate, I'm a second generation Canadian, and very fortunate that I come from a family where those stories were important. And so my Guido spent a lot of time making sure that he shared those stories with all of us kids. My dad and his siblings were very patriotic. They were very Canadian and flag waving, and my grandparents were so proud to be Canadian, and that was instilled in all of us. And in the new country, they needed to participate in everything. You participated in your community, you participated in your family, and you participated in politics, and all of that was very, very important. School was very important, but never was it less important that they came from Ukraine, and it was so important that all of us knew those stories and what they went through. And those stories are so vivid in all of their children's and grandchildren's minds. It's as if we lived them ourselves. And those stories were told to us again and again and again. And I doubt there's any secrets. There may be a few, but there aren't a lot, because they shared everything with us, and that was so important. And in a very passionate and honest and caring way, they made sure that we understood where we came from and how important it was never to forget that. So their story is maybe typical of so many Ukrainians. They came here. My Baba got off the train in November of 1930. And she got off the train in Edmonton at the Strathcona station, and she had a cow, and she had horses, and she had $350 and a wedding dress. And my Guido met her, and they got married in Edmonton, and then they headed north to a community called Chornahora, and where my Guido's sister was already homesteaded with her husband. And so they lived with them and the small Stadnik children, and that's where they started, and they got their homestead and they started to build it. And in that community, all of those homesteads, people came in the 1930s, were replicas of the farms in Ukraine. So everything from the woven willow fences to summer kitchens. And we all grew up in that experience of living that, and we lived two lives. So we lived the Canadian life, but we certainly lived the Ukrainian life, because the two were never separate. My grandparents didn't learn English until very much later in life. And everything they did, well, we never questioned it as we got out more into the Canadian world or the non-Ukrainian world. We went back and go, why did they do that? Because for us, it was just normal, and that was just part of life, and that's how they lived their life. And somehow they found a perfect balance between the two. And they found a perfect balance between Christianity and pagan beliefs and survival in the new land, while never ever letting go of what they left behind. So, some of the stories were always, they were difficult, and those ties stayed very strong with Ukraine, and their ties with Canada were equally as strong. So pretty proud that they were my grandparents, and pretty proud of what they gave us. Yeah.
Я думала, що тут дуже важне, щоб чути, як люди прийшли до Канади, бо вони мають історію. І тут ми маємо багато інакших історій.